Hello, Dr. Vikki Petersen here. I wanted to speak with you today about a patient that wrote in, actually not somebody I've met, but someone that I've sort of met over the internet. And this particular individual was having a lot of eye infections. They started sporadically a few times a year, and then they became pretty chronic. Fortunately, this individual learned about the potential of gluten causing problems throughout the body and eliminated gluten from his diet. He's been gluten-free for 4 years, and the only time his eyes bother him is when he gets into gluten inadvertently. Certainly doesn't try to cheat, but as you well know, sometimes accidents happen. He spoke with the specialist who he had been seeing, because the most recent time he got into gluten, he got such a bad infection that he did need antibiotics again. And what the specialist commented on was, if all he was getting was eye infections that could be treated with antibiotics, she didn't see the point in him changing his diet. So I wanted to address that, because certainly very dangerous advice, because obviously what this specialist doesn't know is that gluten can affect all aspects of the body. It shortens your life when you don't adhere to a gluten-free diet and are gluten intolerant. We know that. It sets you up for autoimmune diseases. When you have one autoimmune disease, you tend to get more than one autoimmune disease. The list goes on with over 300 different symptoms and conditions associated with gluten. So to kind of fool around with, well, you have an infection and just take an antibiotic, especially what the specialist didn't look at was the fact that this individual, when he consumes gluten regularly, which he did 4 years ago, he had gotten to the point where he was chronically on antibiotics. And we all know what that does. It weakens your immune system, and what a catch-22. You have a weakened immune system which can't defend against infection. Gluten is already weakening your immune system, so it's not a pretty picture, not to mention how many other aspects of someone's health can be affected. So if you know somebody who has sort of a chronic condition and their doctor just says, yeah, you know, so you have a chronic sinus condition, you have this that's chronic, you can take this medication and keep it under control. That's not treating the condition, that's masking the condition. Until you have a treatment that eradicates the condition, then you're just doing temporary relief. Now, I appreciate the fact that sometimes so much damage has occurred that we can't completely come back from it, but that's not what I'm talking about. This particular individual had figured out that these infections were absolutely coming from gluten ingestion, and when he didn't ingest gluten, he absolutely did not have any infections. And to just treat it topically, treat it symptomatically, a very dangerous game to play. And you probably know people who are treating themselves that way. Just the other day, a patient came in who tends to get lightheaded. She kind of loses her balance, and it all has to do with sinus congestion. And she said, yeah, you know, her other doctor was giving her this medication and that medication, and it really wasn't working, and she wasn't sure what other medication to try. And I said, it's not about medication, it's about finding out why. Where is the sinus congestion coming from? And we could help her with that. So I know it's a different mindset. I know it's not what you hear day to day, but this is basically the premise of functional medicine, and it's a premise that works very, very well for the human body. So consider looking around at your friends and family, see if anybody is just doing a temporary fix on symptoms that maybe have a root cause. Perhaps it's gluten, perhaps it's something else, but the point is, it is something. And I'm more than happy to help them figure out what that something is. So until next time, I hope this was helpful, and let me know your questions and comments. I do love to hear from you, and I wish you very good health.